we hit I, that will insert a keyframe. We can then right-click on this timeline indicator. Say I'll move it to the 1, that's for 1 second. Say I move this cube, I'll hit G to grab it and just place it over there, clicking to confirm. And I'll hit I again. You see that that inserts another keyframe. So if I right-click on the orange timeline indicator, you see we've now animated the position of the cube from there to there. If I hit X, I can delete these keyframes, or if I hit Control Z to undo that, I can hit D to duplicate these keyframes, and say I'll move them down another second like this, so the entire animation is now taking 3 seconds from 0 to 3. So you'll see if I hit play, we get kind of a yo-yo effect there because each keyframe represents a specific location, rotation, and scale of an object. Now I can speed up this animation by scaling these keyframes closer together. So if I hit A, well, actually hitting A once deselects everything. I'll hit it again, and that selects everything, and I press S to scale. You'll see that the keyframes move towards the direction of wherever the orange timeline indicator is. So if I scale these all the way down to where they're just inside of 1 second, we've now reduced the animation that was taking 3 seconds to only 1 second, so it's going to go a lot faster. Now it's much more fast. So if I hit S again, I could scale these out to where they say take 2 seconds for each position change there. So if I hit play, you see, wow, that's going a lot slower there. All my keyframes are highlighted. You see they're all yellow. I'm going to press X to delete them all. I'm going to press 5 to go into top view. Then I'm going to hit Shift A, which brings up my add menu. You can also bring up the add menu by double right clicking. But I'm going to add a plane here under mesh, and I'm going to hit S to scale it. Or rather, I'm going to Control Z and undo that. I'm going to hit G to grab, and I'm going to hold Control to constrain this plane to the grid. So I want to position this plane to where it's lined up right between these two lines here. Now if I hit S to scale this plane right now, you'll see that it moves out to the left and to the right of those Y and X axis lines. I don't want it to do that. I want it to scale along those lines to be geometrical. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. And the way I do that is I get this plane to scale from where the 3D cursor is. So to get it to scale from where the 3D cursor is, instead of this yellow pivot center in here, I'm going to change the pivot point to 3D cursor. And now when I hit scale, it scales down from where the 3D cursor is. But on top of that, I'm going to hold Control to constrain it to the grid so it can be a precise grid size like that. What I would like to do is animate this cube going all the way around this plane here. Now currently it's a little hard to differentiate the cube from the plane. So what I'm going to do is change my viewport shading now to texture. Now before we pressed I to insert a keyframe, and I can do that now. You see if I press I, that inserts this keyframe here, and then I can right click on the timeline and move it down a second, and then move my cube over here. I'll hold Control to constrain it, and then hit I again, and you see I've now I now have 2 keyframes for this position. If I hit X to delete these keyframes, what I can also do is just hit F. Now F will insert a keyframe and automatically move your timeline down 1 second so that you don't have to come down here and move the timeline. You just then grab your object, hold Control to constrain it there, then I'll hit F again, and you see that inserts a keyframe and moves the timeline down. So this is really great for starting out, getting a basic idea of your animation. So I'm going to grab this and then hold Control to constrain it, click it there, hit F again, and then grab it, hold Control to constrain it, click it there, hit F again, grab it, constrain it down here, and click F again. Now we have an animation of the cube going around this plane like so. Now you may be wondering, why is the cube curving all around this plane? What's going on there? We created these keyframes at these specific points. That is due to Bezier curves, which are animation curves set up in Blender by default to help make, if I hit play, it helps create easing and make the animation look more smooth in most cases, which is really awesome most of the time. But ever so often you'll have something like a gear or mechanical or like a clock turning or something like that that you really need Blender just to specifically animate to the positions you told it to and not get all uppity in your face. So if I press 5 to go back into top view, with all the frames selected, if I click this plus sign right here and I select key and change with all the keys selected and change from key, I change interpolation mode to linear and I hit play, you'll see now that the cube follows exactly the positions which we told it to move. Now we can change these key by key. So say we wanted the first half to be a smooth animation and the other half to be specific, we could then select just these keyframes. I'm holding shift to select multiple ones and go to key, interpolation mode, and linear. I think it was already linear, but then I'll select the first two and do key, interpolation mode, Bezier, which is with the easing. So if I hit play now, you'll see it does the first two rounds smooth and then goes back into the direct linear animation curves. Now there's one more type which is constant. So if I hit A to deselect these and A again to select them all, and then I select key, interpolation mode, constant, you'll see that this will just put the object exactly how you animated it on each keyframe with basically no interpretation between keyframes. So there's a bunch of neat things you could use this for, like say the ticking of a clock, you wanted like the hands to move like very janky and specifically tick, 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 or any number of things. But the important thing is that you can change those types under this menu by going key, interpolation mode, and it will change by whatever keys you have selected.